Hello everyone, in this Azure Networking series, I'll walk you through essential concepts including setting up VNet, peering configuration, and private DNS. This tutorial is perfect for anyone preparing for AZ-700 or looking to build a solid Azure network. Then let's dive in. Today I'm going to talk about this AZ-700 design and implement Microsoft Azure Networking solution, which is mostly about the creation of basic resources in your Azure networking. What I mean is just creating a VNet, creating some subnets, creating private DNS, and using global peering to link the VNets all over the world. Before starting our lab, I would like to talk about this Skillable Lab. They are one of the approved Microsoft Lab provider. You can find a full list of this lab provider on the internet. And as you can see here, you can take advantage of these kind of labs to get acquainted with Azure environment, especially for those students who have never touched the Azure environment in a real world life setting. Something else for those people who don't have access to such labs, there is an interactive lab that lets you to touch each and every steps that we are going to experience and exercise today. These interactive labs are some screenshots available for you to see how you can interact with Azure environment. I'm going to share the link within the description of this video so you can use it as easily as possible. Now let's get our hands dirty and start our lab. I already launched the lab. After hitting the launch, you will see something like this. It is just a virtual machine based on Hyper-V as a hypervisor, and you can start doing whatever you want in this environment. But the bottom line is that it is quite limited. You cannot do anything else except those things, those steps that already defined in the lab procedure. Before doing the configuration, I would like to talk about this lab scenario. As I mentioned, the lab is quite comprehensive. It's about private DNS, it's about global peering, but in order to keep this video as short as possible, today I'm going to mostly talk about the creation of VNets and subnets within this video. The scenario is about a fictional organization which is called Conteso. For those who are familiar with the Microsoft documentation and exam, you probably know that Microsoft mostly use Conteso as the name of this fictional company. You are going to migrate some of their infrastructure like VMs to Azure from an on-prem network. So you need to, in fact, lay the groundwork for that, which is creation of these VNets and subnets at the first place. We need 3 VNets in total and a couple of subnets in each VNet, and only 1 subnet in Southeast Asia, which is called Research VNet. We have a core service VNet, which plays the role of our gateway. What I mean with gateway is just something like your network virtual appliance, your virtual firewall, and these kind of things. It should be located within the core services VNet within this gateway subnet. There are other different subnets also. On the right side, you can see the last VNet that we should create, which should be located in the West Europe, and it has 4 subnets. It is just like your imaginary factory in the West Europe, which consists of manufacturing system subnet and 3 other subnets, for example, sensor, something like the factory management system, SCADA, and this kind of equipment. Let's start our journey by creating these VNets. In this toolbar, at the top, you can search for VNet in this search bar. You see the virtual networks. You need to click on that. Then create virtual network. First, we are going to create the core services VNet. Guys, for the security tab, there are some checkboxes, which is about Azure Firewall, Azure Bastion, DDoS protection, which we are not going to fill none of them today. I'm going to talk about them in future, in the next videos, but today we just leave them alone and go to the IP address tab. Here, you should define the scope. Here you can see the scope. A scope is nothing, just the whole range that you can use for your subnetting, for your different subnets within your VNets. For those people who don't know what is VNet, VNet is somehow equivalent to conventional VLANs. It's not quite like that because conventional VLANs support something like broadcast, but there is nothing as broadcast within the SDN. And Azure, of course, is a software-defined network. And whenever you are going to use subnets, it helps you to have more segregation within this specific VNet. Then, our first perception here is we don't need to create many VNets within one region, which is East US, in order to segment and increase security. You can just use one VNet as we did here and create different subnets within VNets. Okay, let's just consider 1020/16 for this specific VNet. I can delete and create from scratch, and I can hit the edit the pen in order to edit this specific subnet, which was created already by Azure. The IP range, the scope /16, 20/16. For starting address, I'm going to use as planned here. The gateway subnet should be 1020.00/27. Then I can leave it like you can see here, and I need to change it to /27. Then I can just leave other options that we are going to talk about them in the next videos and hit the save. Guys, I just forgot to fill the name. I need to rename it to gateway subnet. Something that popped up here is it says because you are using gateway subnet, you need to change the setting to virtual network gateway for subnet purpose. Then I'm going to do that so it makes sense because Azure could detect it. We are going to create a virtual network gateway and the gateway name is gateway subnet. It is something like a written on a stone rule on Azure. Whenever you are using gateway subnet, it automatically detects you need to use virtual network gateway as the purpose of the subnet. And something that we already discussed, whenever you have different subnets, you can just select one of them as a gateway. And in the gateway subnet, you're going to deploy something like your network virtual appliance, which can be a Palo Alto virtual machine or a checkpoint firewall, something like that. And in terms of the subnet, in fact size, I need to select /27 here. Exactly like what we are asked for in the instruction, because /27 is enough, and as you can see here, it provides us with 32 IP addresses, so it's quite enough for a gateway subnet. Okay, let's hit the save and create the second subnet. Yeah, that's okay. We can just use the default as the subnet purpose, and we need just save the configuration. Purpose default works for us, then just click on add. Okay, public web service subnet is right. Guys, can you see I forgot something for the previous last two created subnets? which is the right IP address here. I'm going to correct them, but before that, let's just make the starting address 10.20.30.0 mentioned here is the right subnet, and the purpose default works for us. Let's just edit the wrong IP addresses here. Okay, now everything seems fine as we already planned here. I can hit review plus create button here. Let's create them. Guys, meanwhile, let's talk about important subject that you have already experienced or we are going to see within the Azure environment. The first subject here is subscription. This subscription is nothing except the person or the entity and organization who is going to foot the bill. What I mean is all about financial things. Subscription contains all information about the billing, in fact, the amount of resource usage on your Azure environment and these kind of things. And the other thing that I would like to talk about is resource. Ladies and gentlemen, resource is only about all the components that either us or Azure itself created whenever you start configuration in Azure. Some resources, when they got deployed, automatically create some other resources. Just imagine network interface card. Whenever you create a virtual machine, it is automatically created by Azure, not you. Then everything, ranging from these vNets that I created, subnets, public IP address, network interface card, are considered as resources. All of these resources are categorized under a resource group. Resource group. Let's see what happened here. When I search for resource, I see resource group. Here I can see one resource group. Guys, this resource group and subscription that you have just seen here, all of them are created by Lab itself. I didn't create them, but in a real world life scenario, whenever you're starting to create your Azure environment, the first thing that you need to do is creating the subscription, entering your credit card information, in addition to other bank related information, which belongs of course to you or your organization. And the second thing that you need to do is to create a resource group. Okay, let's go and see what's created under our resource group. Here I can see the core services VNet. So our first VNet was created as we configured it. We can check it by going under setting, subnets. Yeah, everything seems fine. The gateway subnets /2720 and the IP addresses are correct, so we're fine, and we can go to the next step, which is the creation of manufacturing VNet and research VNet. Guys, I'm going to speed up the video in order to keep our video as short as possible. If you liked this video, please hit the like and also subscribe my channel. Okay, now under our resource group and virtual networks, I can see all of the 3 VNets I already created. So let's verify subnets under manufacturing VNet. Great, everything are configured as we expected, and it is end of our video. In the next video, we are going to configure our private DNS for our resources, and then we are going to spin up some virtual machines